Oh wow, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that this is one of the most striking pictures ever taken of a royal couple. It's amazing that an image can say so much. It's also, I don't think unfair to say, absolutely absurd. From a fairy tale wedding to exile in Hollywood, the story of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle has become a saga of relentless drama. Once the golden couple, they've traded royal pomp for Californian sunshine, but their lives remain firmly in the spotlight. Their carefully curated public displays of affection continue, but beneath the surface, what's the real story? In this episode of Reading the Royals, I'll delve into their body language to reveal the shifting power dynamic and how Prince Harry may have unwittingly become Meghan's spare. Let's go back to September 2017, when after weeks of speculation, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle officially appeared together in public for the first time. None of us knew then what a dramatic new chapter it would be for the royal family. We're at the Invictus Games in Toronto in Canada, which was set up by Harry and William's Royal Foundation and is a cause hugely close to Harry's heart. So the choice of location is very significant. So too is the fact that they were together at all, as usually a couple would have to be engaged before appearing together like this. The first thing you notice is how touchy-feely they are. The royal family, as you might expect, are very formal and traditional. We rarely see them even holding hands at official engagements. But this is them saying that they want to be different. Meghan looks relaxed and happy about the situation, while Harry seems to be displaying more protective body language. Remember, this came after Meghan had apparently gone against protocol and talked about their relationship in a controversial cover story for Vanity Fair magazine. Later, Harry insisted that the palace put out an unprecedented statement complaining about a wave of abuse and harassment from the press and on social media. Although not obvious at the time, this occasion set the tone for the rest of their relationship, that they are a very tactile couple determined to do things their own way. Who can forget these pictures, taken just 2 months later when the couple officially announced their engagement? It's also the first time that we're introduced to a key element of Meghan's body language, where she not only holds Harry's hand, but also grasps his arm. Daily Mail contributor and body language expert Judy James calls this the double clutch. Actress Meghan here shows she's no newcomer to the photo call. Harry, meanwhile, is more stiff and formal. The hand in the jacket is a bit like something his father King Charles might do. Perhaps he's just less used to the sort of less formal approach. The photo call for his brother Prince William, for example, was much more regal. Meghan looks like she's trying to warm him up by rubbing his arm. It reminds you of what people have said more recently of the couple, that Meghan is like a wife and a mother to Harry. Despite the picture of warmth of the interaction here, we know that not all was well behind the scenes. According to Harry's memoirs Spare, William had issued an unwelcome warning to his brother, suggesting that the relationship might be moving too fast. It was a similar story for the first TV interview. Look at the arm stretched across him and how she leans right into him. Meghan's the dominant one here. Harry was a confident public speaker, but he's nothing compared to Meghan. We just hadn't seen this sort of interaction from the royals before. Think back to the more modest appearances from the much younger Catherine and Lady Diana Spencer, who were both younger and both looked quite shy. They let their fiancés take the lead. Let's take a look at a key part of Harry and Meghan's interview.
So it was definitely a setup. It was a blind date.
It was a blind date,
and,
for sure.
And it's so interesting because we talk about it now, and even then, because I'm from the States, you don't grow up with the same understanding of the royal family, and so while I now understand very clearly there's a global interest there, I didn't know much about him, and so the only thing that I had asked her when she said she wanted to set us up was, I had one question. I said, well, is he nice?
But when you compare this to what they said in their 2022 Netflix series, you start to see the contradictions. Things such as how they actually FaceTime before their first meeting weren't shared in their engagement interview, along with the discrepancies in the book Spare. It's another reminder of the inconsistencies in their carefully constructed narrative. Oh, this is such a great still from that interview. I mean, it really, you can really see how Meghan is the actress. She's playing up for the cameras. She's performing. I mean, You think of Catherine or Lady Diana and they were just sort of awkwardly, caught like a rabbit in the headlights, but Meghan appears to be enjoying it and really playing up. Just a few days later, the couple got on with the job and undertook their first official public engagement together in Nottingham. This is interesting because Harry does take the lead here. Meghan perhaps seeing that he is more experienced in this stuff. Though I think we see later how that changes. Harry had a protective hand on Meghan's back for much of this, as she dealt confidently with the crowds. The people here were pleased to see them. I'm not sure the same would be true if they appeared there today. Now these really are memorable pictures, but beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect day lurked hidden tensions and power plays that would soon explode into public view. In this picture we see the couple exchanging vows and Harry placing a wedding ring on Meghan's finger. But look at her other hand, placed on top of Harry's. One way of looking at it could be that it's a sign of reassurance to a clearly nervous and stiff Harry, but another way of looking at it could be that it's seen as a sign of dominance. Even during their celebratory carriage ride through Windsor, the same dynamic is on display. Behind the smiles are the now well-documented rows that had taken place, from Meghan's father being uninvited to the spat with the Queen's dresser Angela Kelly over tiaras, to the infamous argument with Catherine over the outfits for the bridesmaids. We now know that the late Queen had her own opinions about the wedding, in particular Meghan's very white dress, which, she said to her cousin Lady Elizabeth Anson, was flamboyantly virginal for a divorcee. We're a couple of months after the wedding now, and things are starting to really turn. It seems as though their body language becomes less formal, more clingy, mirroring the growing tensions. This picture was taken of the couple on the Buckingham Palace balcony after the flypast to mark the centenary of the Royal Air Force, and it's one of the first times that we see this gesture from Meghan. You could infer that the roles between the two are starting to reverse, with Meghan leading and guiding. It coincides with reports emerging around the cracks in the Fab Four, which I've covered in other episodes. Just a month before this, there had been an argument over Meghan's discussing Kate's hormones. Meghan stays in the background for much of this engagement, where the atmosphere on the balcony looked very frosty. A happier picture here, with the pair looking as demonstrative as we now expect them to be. Days before this, at the wedding of Princess Eugenie to Jack Brooksbank, the pair had told the family that Meghan was pregnant with their first child. It's also one of the first times that we see this bit of body language, which Judy James calls the hand sandwich, where Meghan holds Harry's hand with both of hers. Judy says it's the strongest form of hand-holding and gives them a romantic couple appearance. It's a move we end up becoming very familiar with. The couple told the rest of the world about the pregnancy as they landed in Australia for their first royal tour, taking in Fiji, Tonga and New Zealand too. But this trip would also mark a dramatic shift in the royal family's attitude towards Meghan, or at least that's what Harry claimed during his interview with Oprah Winfrey in 2021. He claimed the other royals may have been jealous of Meghan's success during the tour, saying, my father, my brother, Kate and all the rest of the family, they were really welcoming, but it really changed after the Australia tour, after our South Pacific tour. It was the first time that the family got to see how incredible she is at the job. Well, there are a few moments from that tour that I want to highlight, in particular this one. This is very early in the tour, and a very similar picture was eventually chosen as the main artwork for their Netflix series. It's very interesting to choose this picture from an important royal tour to front a documentary which criticises the British royal family. It shows them alone, which would have been unusual on a royal tour, bodies slightly inwards, but together, a unit hand in hand. The next is this. During a speech delivered by Prince Harry in the Australian city Dubbo, despite torrential rain, Meghan chose to stay by her husband's side, holding an umbrella while he spoke. At that time, many were touched by the gesture. She seemed down to earth by doing a task usually carried out by a staff member. Now we can look and see that maternal side to their relationship coming through, while others might see the fact that Meghan is now front and centre at an engagement that was really meant to be about him, not her. It's also the first time we see this, Meghan cradling her baby bump. It was a bit of body language we saw repeatedly throughout her pregnancy, and one that got the nation talking. This image, similar to one they used to promote their series, They're alone, less formal than other royals, a family unit walking away from the glare. We've touched on this image before, but it's worth revisiting. This is December 2018, the last Christmas Harry and Meghan would spend with the royal family, and the atmosphere was anything but festive. While they maintain a semblance of affection for the cameras, the reality is that Harry and Meghan were now at odds with William and Catherine, and Meghan's honeymoon period was over. The rumours of her being a difficult duchess that have stuck around ever since were starting to grow. Here she grips Harry's arm tightly as he is far away from his family. And look at the expression on Harry's face. He looks downcast, awkward. Like he'd rather be anywhere than there with his brother and sister-in-law. Let's fast forward a year to October 2019 and the royal tour of South Africa, and a trip that would expose the deep unhappiness lurking beneath the surface. Royal correspondents at the time noted that Prince Harry was more reserved than usual and didn't really interact with the media. Some of the photos like this make them look a little sad and vulnerable. It's also the first time that Meghan revealed in an interview that she was struggling with her new royal role. While many had sympathy for her, others criticised her decision to complain while standing in one of the poorest parts of the world. I mean, look at this photograph. It seems really telling. Meghan is sort of striding ahead on her own, and Harry looks like he's struggling to keep up with her. He looks unhappy. Harry is reaching for Meghan as she walks ahead. Throughout this engagement, both had smiled, greeted well-wishers and held hands. But there's a lot more to this candid moment. Meghan later revealed in her podcast Archetypes that the couple had been told just before this engagement that 4-month-old Prince Archie, who had joined them on the trip, had narrowly escaped a fire in his nursery. Everyone's in tears, everyone's shaken, and what did we have to do? Go out and do another official engagement. I said, this doesn't make any sense. We had to leave our baby. We still had to leave him and go into another official engagement. Here her smile has slightly slipped, and Harry looks very tense. You have to wonder, is this a key moment things began to change for the couple? Things really changed a couple of months later. We're now in January 2020. Usually we see the royals emerge about this point from their festive cocoon in Sandringham, but the Sussexes had missed it, choosing to spend Christmas in Canada. Something was clearly amiss. According to Harry's account, he spoke to the late Queen on 3rd of January about his and Meghan's desire for a different working arrangement. He writes that the Queen was not pleased, but also not surprised. They agreed to meet at Sandringham that week. The meeting was cancelled. Things were rushed as the press had got wind of something big, so a statement was rushed out by the pair, which the Queen hadn't seen. While the rest of the royals were reeling after difficult discussions, Harry and Meghan seem happy. Remember, this picture came the day before they announced that they were leaving. You can almost detect relief on their faces, perhaps believing that they were going to do bigger and better things. When they did announce that they were to step down, this appearance was the one used to illustrate it. You could say that this occasion, where they were at Canada House in London, was the photo shoot for the occasion. Look at the Mail's front page here. It's hard to overstate just how big a deal this was. This image, taken at Mansion House in March 2020, seemed to go around the world at the time. Despite the rain, this was the Sussexes saying that they're on the up, able to weather any storm just by being close together. They seem to be walking towards the light, although this could be the glare of more unwelcome flashbulbs. And look at the bright colours. These are important, as I'll explain next. In their final royal engagements, Harry and Meghan presented a united front of confidence, but a closer look reveals a far more complex dynamic. Meghan, in particular, seemed to have fully embraced her newfound independence, perhaps more so than her husband. Her outfit is noteworthy too, as she later explained. Until that last week in the UK, I rarely wore colour. I never wanted to upstage or ruffle any feathers, so I just tried to blend in. But I wore a lot of colour that week. I thought, well, let's just look like a rainbow. I should say that the claim has since been widely questioned. Here we see the couple attending their final royal duty, the Commonwealth Day service in 2020. It's a moment heavy with symbolism. Look at Meghan's gaze, which is fixed directly on the photographers. It's a confident, almost defiant stare. Harry, in contrast, appears more apprehensive. As we've covered before, inside it was more strained. Meghan maintained a defiant demeanour. She and Harry didn't speak to William and Catherine, and not even Sophie and Edward as peacemakers could fix things. As Harry chillingly wrote in Spare, "I felt really distant from the rest of my family. It looked cold, but it also felt cold." Oh wow. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that this is one of the most striking pictures ever taken of a royal couple. It's amazing that an image can say so much. It's also, I don't think unfair to say, absolutely absurd. To set the scene, we're in September 2021. We've had that controversial interview with Oprah that left royals and royal watchers aghast, but Harry and Meghan, as an independent couple, still have a huge popularity and interest around them, which is why they are on the cover of Time magazine's 100 most influential list. That a royal couple would ever do a shoot like this is extraordinary in itself, but what does it say about their changing power dynamic? Meghan dominates the image, with Harry positioned firmly in the background. A clear reversal of the roles we might have expected, given that he's the royal. Meghan stands unquestionably confident, wearing bright white and splayed hair stands out, while Harry pops out behind her shoulder, in what just looks a bit awkward, like a child might appear behind an adult's knee or like he wants a piggyback. It was an image that spawned endless memes and comments on social media. One of my favourites was one that described the image as Harry looking like the hairdresser asking Meghan if she likes her new hairdo. This is a scene you'd rarely, if ever, witness from a traditional royal couple. It's April 2022, and Harry and Meghan have descended on the Netherlands for the Invictus Games, their first return to European soil since their dramatic exit from royal life. There might be a reason for the extra public display of affection, as it came just days after a secret summit with the Queen and Prince Charles at Windsor. Do they want to tell themselves and the world that they are rock solid? It's also an example of what Meghan has been criticised for, namely putting herself at the centre of Harry's events. A month later, Harry and Meghan's fleeting appearance at the Queen's Platinum Jubilee was less a show of family unity and more a carefully orchestrated performance, according to explosive claims by royal biographer Tom Bower. Their every move, it seems, was designed for maximum impact and maximum attention. Bower alleges that the Sussexes deliberately arrived late at Wellington Barracks, conveniently missing the coach designated for so-called minor royals travelling to St Paul's Cathedral. This allowed them to make a grand entrance by car, ensuring that they were photographed on the steps. A crucial moment, Bower claims, for their Netflix cameras. But the drama didn't end there. Upon reaching their allocated seats, Bower claims that the couple then attempted to orchestrate a further seating change, asking 6 other guests to move so they could sit on the aisle. This brazen request, according to Bower, was swiftly rebuffed by an usher who informed them they were assigned to specific seats. Harry's reported response, simply "Why?" speaks volumes about their apparent sense of entitlement. I remember that moment well, and there were what appeared to be awkward exchanges, and Harry's reaction does suggest frustration. Adding to the sense of distance and estrangement, Harry and Meghan were conspicuously absent from the Buckingham Palace balcony during Trooping the Colour, further fueling speculation about the deep rift within the royal family. This was another carefully orchestrated moment for the Duke and Duchess, Meghan's grand return to the UK stage, her first speech since Megxit. Meghan took centre stage as the keynote speaker at the One Young World Summit in Manchester in September. She exuded confidence, smiling broadly throughout the ceremony and deploying her now familiar touchy-feely gestures towards Harry. Again, we see the almost infantilising of a grumpy Harry, this knee touch a prime example. Whether Harry looked angry because he's seemingly overshadowed by his wife's performance, we don't know. We do know, however, that this came at another tense time, namely when Meghan launched yet another attack on the royal family in an interview with New York Magazine's The Cut. In that interview, Meghan claimed that she and Harry were happy to leave Britain, stating that they were upsetting the dynamic of the hierarchy just by existing before their dramatic exit. She also recounted a bizarre anecdote about a Lion King cast member comparing their marriage to Nelson Mandela's release from prison, a claim that was met with widespread disbelief. Perhaps most damagingly, Meghan quoted Harry as saying, "I lost my dad in this process," further widening the rift with Prince Charles. Royal insiders at the time branded the interview delusional and expressed deep concern about the impact of Meghan's comments on the Queen. Just 3 days later, the Queen died. Harry detailed in his memoir Spare how he learned of her passing after checking the BBC News website. He also revealed that King Charles instructed him not to bring Meghan to visit the dying Queen for what Harry calls nonsensical and disrespectful reasons. Apparently Harry retorted, "Don't even think about speaking about my wife like that," which apparently prompted an apology from the King. This will have been a sad and awkward time for Harry, when his ostracism from the family would be even more apparent. Here we can see them at the state funeral for the late Queen. We can see Meghan with her head bowed and Harry firmly squeezing her hand in reassurance. Meghan spent most of the ceremony without Harry. Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, was the only other royal really to interact with her. She looks completely out of her comfort zone. Harry seems less nervous. And this was probably the most tense moment of all. The first time we had seen William, Catherine, Harry and Meghan together since those final official engagements, and the atmosphere was frosty, to say the least. Meghan's body language here is stark contrast to what we had seen at the One Young World Summit just a week before. Barely a word is passed between the four, and they can't seem to manage to even look at each other. But let's watch that again in slow motion. Look at the expression on Catherine's face. Normally the Princess of Wales is completely unflappable and is impeccable in every situation, but here she appears to let her emotions come to the surface. Her expression is nothing short of stern and frosty towards Meghan. Harry later revealed in Spare that he and William barely exchanged a word during the entire period. The sad death of his grandmother didn't stop the release of Harry and Meghan's Netflix docuseries and Harry's tell-all memoir Spare in January, both of which were laden with criticism of the royal family. This is a rather extraordinary display of affection at that year's Invictus Games in Germany. Here we see them mimicking each other's behaviour and putting on a united front on the first day of the event. It comes against a backdrop of rumours of tensions behind the scenes. It's also a sign of Harry returning to the joker and performer, playing up to the crowds. The extra exuberance has come as their media projects has faltered, with their big money Spotify deal petering out early. To add insult to injury, an executive at the company, Bill Simmons, described the couple as effing grifters and ridiculed Harry's attempts to contribute ideas for podcasts. A dramatic shift in the power dynamic was on full display during Harry and Meghan's quasi-royal tour of Colombia, a trip orchestrated after the Vice President, Francia Marquez, reportedly watched their Netflix documentary. This photo, taken with the Vice President Marquez, could easily be mistaken for a formal diplomatic or royal engagement. But beneath the surface, a different story was unfolding. Body language expert Judy James noted that Harry had adopted a pose similar to Prince William's, the so-called fig leaf pose. With hands clasped in front, it's often indicative of shyness or nervousness. He was clearly not asserting any dominance. Meghan really goes for the occasion. She's the star of the show, front and centre. Here, he's just sitting like a spare part, perhaps wondering why he gave up doing real royal tours if all he was going to be doing was pretend ones like this. This is an extraordinary picture. Look how unhappy Harry looks. Meghan seems to be like a mother trying to cajole her son into staying out a bit longer and being polite. Throughout this episode, we've seen the precedent normally afforded to Prince Harry gradually erode. The spotlight has increasingly been shared with Meghan, but this tour of Colombia marked a clear turning point. Meghan dominated throughout, leaving Harry looking, for whatever reason, distinctly glum. But it is the couple's so-called professional separation which defined 2024. Harry was seen carrying out solo engagements in New York, connected to his late mother Princess Diana, and the World Child Awards in London. Both would once have held much appeal for Meghan. What's been most noticeable is that the Duke has appeared far more relaxed than on his previous appearance in New York with his wife. That visit turned into a fiasco, with claims of a high-speed car chase with paparazzi that were denied by the police. Harry's smiles have also been in contrast to the frowns he often seemed to be wearing when he visited Colombia. A source in California told me that Meghan has decided that their interests are best served by pursuing separate careers. They will still carry out some charitable engagements together and embark on foreign visits, but their work projects will be separate. So is their dream of being the next George and Amal Clooney over? Looking back at these key moments in Harry and Meghan's relationship, from their earliest public appearances to their recent outings, reveals a clear and undeniable shift in power. Meghan, with her unwavering confidence and carefully curated image, has increasingly taken the lead and limelight, while Harry has often appeared uncomfortable, tense, and at times more recently, lost. Has Harry gone from being the spare to the heir to the spare to his wife? Will he be happy in her shadow? Will he find his own purpose and role? Or will their individual ambitions continue to pull them apart? Only time will tell. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Reading the Royals. For more great royal videos, make sure you subscribe to the Daily Mail Royals YouTube channel.